Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Jabroni Drive. On this week's episode, Crown Jewel, Logan Paul, Will Ospreay, John Cena, Solo Sikoa, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, Fatal 4-Way, Sami, Zayn, Wargame. Timmy, anything you got to say to all the Schmidlavelites out there?
Tommy, I am Bret the Hitman Hart. I am one half. The tag team, the Hart Foundation. I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And I am the excellence of execution.
I love it. For those of you who can't see, Timmy just put his sunglasses on the camera. Shout out to the excellence of execution. The one, the only, the Hitman. Incredible opening for an incredible show. Jabroni Drive, the best wrestling podcast in all of professional wrestling podcasts. Just ask us. So, if you haven't already done it, please give us a subscribe, a follow, tell your friends, tell your family. Jabroni Drive. They'll love it. Yeah.
Maybe don't tell your family. Just tell the friends that like wrestling.
Yeah. Tell people that like tell someone that likes wrestling. Maybe people that don't like, because they'll probably be like, what? I'm not gonna. But if they like wrestling, they go, oh, well, I'm probably still not gonna, but maybe. You never know. So, Timmy, big weekend, big PLE. Let's get right into it. War Games. Crown Jewel. We'll get to War Games. Crown Jewel. 1 o'clock start time on Saturday. Decent card. Crowd sucked. Crowd was awful.
I mean, we you really got into it there, huh?
Yeah.
Usually you ask me what I liked about the PLE, Tom. Yeah, dude, like just was way off. It was weird for an event. Like they get this like every once in a while, right? Like, I mean, it's once a year. And you'd figure that the crowd would be geeked up, ready to go, like fired up. And they were for certain matches. But like, in my opinion, I felt like the wrestling throughout the entire PLE was really good. And it didn't get the justice that it deserved. It just felt flat. And I don't know where, maybe it was the building of the matches, or maybe, I mean, they've had pay-per-views in this same arena before. And we've never felt like a reaction like this before. And as hot as the WWE has been, it's just, it's a strange type of aura that surrounded the PLE. And it sucked because there was a lot of matches that kind of fell by the wayside just because the crowd has so much to do with what these wrestlers accomplish in the ring, right? Like they feed off the crowd, and the crowd really has a lot to do with, you know, how these matches kind of play out, and how invested the TV audience gets. And it just wasn't there for me, at least.
Yeah.
Something that we both noticed right away.
Yeah, and like you said, it seemed just flat. And if we learned anything from like the COVID area of professional wrestling or in sports, it's like how important the fans are to an event, and particularly professional wrestling. The fans can make a show. There's been shows that the one that pops in my head right away was Backlash, and how that crowd being so hot in Puerto Rico was just like, it made the show incredible. We weren't really thinking it was going to be this great show, and the crowd just made it. I mean, when you think about the old ECW arena, the fans and the crowd just makes the show. And when they're flat like that, it sucks, because like you said, they were putting on a good show. There was some good matches, and it wasn't getting necessarily the love that you'd like to see from the fans. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing. I feel like when I watch Japan, like New Japan or something like that, they're a little bit more subdued. they're not like out there hooting and hollering and screaming and going crazy. Like when something happens, it'll be like an ooh and an ah, but it won't be like the fans kind of take over and they're
But
chanting like
that,
you get from an American or a European crowd or Puerto Rico or wherever.
yeah, let me interject here, Tom, and just say like, and that's kind of strange for like once you get outside, because like look, the American audience, right? Um, they have a tendency to go through lulls, right? Like these lulls, like
Yes.
in any sporting event, right? Where they get high, they get low, right? And there's a crescendo usually, and they get hot for certain wrestlers, they don't for others. And it's the same way with sports, really. And like once you go outside of the United States, right, you get into these other sports, like you see soccer, or as they say, football in different countries, like European countries, dude, the crowd is nonstop chanting throughout the entire like sporting event. Same like with cricket in different countries too, same way, right? And even in like Japan, like with baseball is nuts, dude. Like you watch
Right.
baseball, there's a constant ambiance like throughout the entire game, and it just doesn't stop. And um, we just didn't get it from Saudi Arabia, and we're not sure why that is, but it really kind of had a little bit of an impact on how I think the ultimate viewer experienced Crown Jewel.
I agree. And another place I want to shout out, and they always seem to have a hot crowd, is in Canada. Canada always seems to be up for all the professional wrestling. I think of, the Elimination Chamber last year in front of Sami Zayn's home crowd just
Yep.
was electric too. So, it's a shame that it didn't seem to have that. Sometimes when there's an outdoor setting, it seems like that, but this wasn't an outdoor. At first, I think we were asking that. We're like, is this outdoors that the sound kind of goes out, and it didn't appear to be. I didn't like research the actual venue, but it looked like an enclosed.
No, it was an arena. It was an enclosed arena.
Yeah.
It just didn't have it. I mean, for certain matches.
All right. So let's get into those matches and let's jump right into the Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre match. It started the show. The crowd was hot for that. And I got to eat a little bit of crow here and give Seth Rollins his credit. Him and Drew McIntyre had a great match. I liked the false finishes. I liked the moves. They were physical. Um, and particularly, I think the false finishes is really what was good for me. You don't see Seth's matches usually go long. Like this one was a nice build, a nice tempo. The time of the match, the overall time of the match was good. And you had two guys at the peak of their careers going at it in Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. Great match. I liked how it was clean. And there was some times when Seth was down with his back injury and and Drew kind of paused and he didn't
Mhm.
go after him. Now he hasn't commented on that yet. Timmy, overall thoughts of the match, like just the overall thoughts of the match, if you could.
You usually highlight these types of matches by asking the wrestlers to really, as I quote Tom, lay it in. And that's what you got from both of these guys. Yeah, within the first 5 minutes of these matches, or of this match particularly, Seth's chest was blood meat. It looked like he just got out of a butcher shop. And it was good to see because yeah, there's a lot of questions, especially from you and from the audience. And like he has been a fighting champion, and you cannot deny the fact that this guy continues to go out and defend. And what the thing he's doing is he's putting so much value into what that belt is. And I don't know if many people see that. It's just like, look, this dude is really putting um he might have he's probably getting close to defending it more than Roman Reigns has in 3 years. It's crazy. Like, but I mean, he's only had the title for probably less than a year now. But I'm just happy to see him really deliver on a high level with another opponent that I really think that he sees eye to eye with, and they match up well, and it's just seemed like a good partnership throughout. Uh the storyline too as well throughout the match played into it a little bit. The back thing is still obviously an ongoing issue. And the not the bloodline, the Judgment Day thing had me in the back of my head thinking like, how is this going to really play out? And I think it was great with the false finishes, as you highlighted, because you didn't know, like that doubt in the back of your mind is like, all right, who, are we going to see somebody pop out, or are we going to? And like for the most part, like it was just a clean, really good match, with a lot of good like finishers and good spots where like guys are kicking out, and it's just like it had me kind of on my seat, like on the edge of my seat, like, oh Jesus, like he kicked out
Yeah.
again. That's insane. And like when you get that feeling when you're watching a PLE match, a heavyweight match, you know that they got you. So yeah, obviously flowers to both of those guys for performing the way they did. And it was it was a really good match.
Yeah. And like you're just saying there, Timmy, we didn't know who was going to win this match. There was a couple matches on this PLE that we circled that we knew, okay, this is going to be the outcome of this one. And this one had us, we didn't know. And
Yeah.
great show. And I will say, I think this is going to be something where when we look back on Seth Rollins' career years from now, I think this run that he's having is probably going to go down as his peak like run. I don't know how much longer he's going to be having the title, but he's been stringing this match right here and his run as far as defending the title. And you said he's had several defenses and stuff like that, is something where he's showcasing this title, and it's going to go down as maybe one of the highlights peak of his career. Kind of like when John Cena was the United States champion and he did his United States challenge, and he would have different wrestlers come out each week. You're up pretty close there, Timmy. What's going on now?
I know. I just want to make sure that's you that's actually saying that's because I want to clip this little segment here and just put it in the archives. So, I mean, you have just done a 180, and we're gonna remember this.
I said I got to eat some crow here. I mean, this match was
I mean,
very
this
good.
one match is what put you over. That's it. This is the one match you've been critical of Seth, and now all of a sudden you go, we're gonna look back at this
I think
time.
you know what? I think this is the best. I think that's the best match I've ever seen Seth Rollins have.
No Cody,
I've said before, I feel like that Cody
Hell in the
Seth match,
Cell.
I feel like that Cody Seth match was more about Cody dealing with his injury than it was an actual like
Okay.
this match is great. What made that match great was the injury and being able to perform through that. It takes two to take, like Seth had to protect him and they went to the limits with that, but it wasn't like it just wasn't like your traditional wrestling match. This match it had everything. It was very good, like very good. And I'm surprised. I want to see what Meltzer
Cool
rates
thing.
this because it
Cool
was better
thing.
than the Shinsuke match.
And here's the other thing too. Seth is adding certain things to his repertoire with like little high flying like risk maneuvers, like he's using the ropes a little bit more. He's doing the almost like a lion salt, if you will. And he's becoming more athletic in the ring. And I think that's something you used to reference to, like when he would take more risks before his injury.
Yes.
And I think like he's probably feeling a little bit more comfortable in the ring, which is it's just great because you get better results when that does happen. Uh, but it's interesting because I – like, we feel like this run might be coming to an end with the belt, but like, I don't know. I think, like, he's probably feeling a little bit more comfortable in the ring, which is it's just great because you get better results when that does happen. But it's interesting because I – like, we feel like this run might be coming to an end with the belt, but like, Seth's got so much ahead of him, dude. He's not done. It's not even close to being done. He's got so much more ahead of him. And if he's going to get better and better, like this is the time to do it. It's going to be cool to see him continue to develop because he's a guy that can reinvent himself and continue to progress throughout the company.
Yeah. And I think also, like you're saying, with that, the extra high flying, also, like you mentioned earlier, the laying in, as we call it, you don't see that too often from Seth where he's taking those chops and his chest looks like that, and just a little brutality of the match and how they be. So Seth wins clean. Out comes Damian Priest. You think, okay, maybe he's going to cash in. Sami Zayn comes from the crowd, knocks out Priest, takes his briefcase, runs off. Priest chases after him. McIntyre goes in the back. You see Mommy go to him, say, kind of the shrug, like, huh? I told you I could have helped. So that leads to McIntyre on Raw. He shows up. Someone asks him, so, this and that happened. What do you think? He doesn't respond, gets back in the car and leaves. Seth Rollins also mentions Drew McIntyre, man of his word. We thought maybe he was in bed with the Judgment Day. They didn't come out and do that. Then out comes Sami Zayn because Seth Rollins wanted to thank him for helping him with Damian Priest, and which leads to a championship match on Monday Night Raw. To me, this match was awesome. These two guys, again, Seth Rollins, the night after, or 2 nights after his PLE match, banged up, goes against Sami Zayn, and they put on a hell of a match.
Uh,
Great show. Seth wins it clean again. Another part of this run that we're talking about that Seth's been on, I loved how I loved that promo between those two. It was definitely like great back and forth, authentic stuff talking about it, and I think really got the crowd buzzing. It was a great start to Monday Night Raw and a great match.
yeah, it was. I identified it like, look, they brought out Seth, and then that to start the show, and these things don't happen often on these shows, right? Like they save usually the best matches for the PLEs, and when you get something like this, like right out the gate, like we get Sammy and Seth in a WWE heavyweight title match, like that's a cool thing, and that's something that's going to keep the audience tuned in because, like, look, if you're getting something that big, there's almost an expectation that you're going to get something else throughout the like the whole Raw, right? Like, all right, well, if they're willing to put this on the line, like, what else could happen, right? And you really viewership probably would go up, like, and does go up when you lead off like that, right? Like, hey, like they don't announce any of the matches, and then Pierce comes in and like he makes it official, and it's great. Our boy Pierce, who we love, but it's what Sammy is doing. He's doing the same authentic promo that he did last week. He's coming out and he's trying to be his true self and trying to really show his worth as a candidate in the heavyweight division. Like he can contend for a title. And I mean, his performance on Monday night shows that he can do it. His performance against Roman Reigns in Elimination Chamber shows that he can do it. He can really perform with the best of them. And dude, you know what? There's just so much talent. We talked about this before in the WWE that like there's interchangeable parts at the top. And it's so cool to have that flexibility with your roster to be able to just put any one of those guys. Like we're looking at Sami Zayn, we look at Sami Zayn, we look at LA Knight, we look at Jey Uso, we look at Roman Reigns, we look at Cody Rhodes, you got Drew McIntyre, you got Sheamus, who you can throw in like a championship match because these guys are all heavyweight contenders. Like even the Miz, like you got like the Miz who's been dormant for years. And dude, the pop that he got on Monday night during that fatal 4-way match was incredible. You're like, wow, all of a sudden the crowd's behind this guy. and he looked fantastic. And you got a guy like Gunther who is holding the Intercontinental title, who could easily be in a conversation for the heavyweight title. Like it's unbelievable the array of talent that you have and the directions that you can go. Like as a creative guy, if I worked at the WWE, I'm like salivating. Like, hey,
Right.
this is awesome. Like we have guys that are over. We have guys that are absolute heels, and we can work with that. And it's just going to be fun to just continue to develop these storylines. And I hope they take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's the amount of talent is it's funny because it's almost the gift and the curse because there's only so many spots, and we keep talking about these PLEs where a guy, oh well he wasn't on this one or they're not on this one. It's like, well, there's only so much show to put them on. So it's nice for them to showcase a guy like Sami after a PLE like this. And where do you think we're going with Drew McIntyre? If I could, real quick, I'm gonna say that they're gonna go away from this Judgment Day a little bit. They've hinted at it, and now I think is when they pull the trick and kind of forget it, and then it's more of a surprise later on down the road. Drew McIntyre, we talked about last week, he can't join the Judgment Day if he does it in the way that we had suggested with the turn on Damian Priest and he cashes in the title like on him until the Judgment Day loses their tag titles. Like it can't happen.
Well,
So
we have the Cody Rhodes Jey Uso tag team match next week against the Judgment Day for the titles. That could be a situation where they drop the titles again, but they've dropped them. I mean, it's been back and forth over the course of like the last 2 months, right? So
right.
I mean, where do you it's hard to predict on like how this stuff goes, right? Because we've been wrong more times than we've been right. Uh eh, I you really feel like Drew goes into like a dormant type stage here, like a dormant type, like because like the way I saw it on Monday night, like he gets back, he's more of a lone wolf, right?
Right.
And I think they're showing that he's tormented, right? Like he's kind of in between, right? He loses the match, like he should have won, obviously, against Seth. Everyone thought he was going to win. He thought he was going to win, come back. Mommy looks at him in disgust, almost like you idiot, like you could have. And now, the way that we predicted it, we felt like, hey, he's going to come down during this heavyweight title match and just wreck shop, and it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah, I thought he was going to interfere in the Seth and Sami match. I thought he was just going to come down and destroy
Mm-hmm.
them, and then that's maybe how he gets his title shot again. And that's when the turn happens. I feel like you're saying, he has the choices in front of him, and the losses have piled up now to where his self-doubt is going to kick in and say, I'm doing whatever it takes. I don't care if it's wrong. I'm going to take the help and I want the title. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be his ultimate choice. I just don't know
Well,
how that happens.
and this is what WWE is going to be good at, is getting us invested in this journey with Drew and seeing where it goes. Um, it 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 could go any which way direction. I hope it finalizes with him being in control of that whole Judgment Day situation. I really, now
Me
that
too.
I'm feeling it, I feel like it's just like it would be a cool like spot for him to be in charge and run shit, and like it would be a position of power, right? Like I think it would work for him. Um,
And I
but
just think now they try to hide that. So now, like, we've teased it that he's going to join the Judgment Day, and people are like, oh, he's going to join. He didn't. And now I think they try to like pull the wool over our eyes and like stay away from him in the Judgment Day so much to that when he does get his title shot, It might not be till Rumble. He gets his chance and he wins. Oh my God, he finally won. Like someone came out and interfered, but he didn't like know or see it. Boom, here comes Damian Priest to cash in. Oh no, he finally won and now he's going to cash in. Oh my gosh, here he goes. He hands it in. All of a sudden, super kick from Finn Balor onto Damian Priest. And then, like you said, I would love to see him come out with that Judgment Day. I mean, what a force that would be, man. That would
Yeah.
he would
Yeah.
like legitimize that.
Um, let's flip it back to the PLE again. Let's go back to Crown Jewel.
Okay.
And Tom, tell me what you felt when Logan Paul gets crowned the US title winner. Tell me what your thoughts were on him with the belt, number one, after he wins it, and the manner that he won it. And then just like the overall feel of that match.
Okay. Well, I am very excited for Logan Paul to be the United States champion. I like the match. I thought it was really good. I liked how Escobar came out, grabbed the brass knuckles, and then left them on the ring apron. I thought that was well done because it was like he just happened to leave him there, it wasn't done thing, but I still thinks that brings the divide between him and Ray a little bit more. Um, and I think that Logan Paul is one of the best young wrestlers in the world when you combine his ability in ring, his mic skills, which are excellent, and his presence in social media and his following. I mean, you might say he's the best young wrestler in the world. And I think he's going to elevate this title. The big question I have from that match is the spot where Ray does a flip off the rope and Logan kind of has to like dive to catch him. And he catches him and looks like he saves him from serious injury. Was that Ray didn't get far enough or Logan wasn't close enough? Because if it was Ray didn't get far enough, this kid is awesome. Like, that is a fucking save. Like, what a move to catch him there. If it's not hit, I mean, it's win-win either way, but if it's not and he was too far away, okay, he's still somewhat of a part-timer and there's some rust there that he needs to shore up. But
If it's
otherwise, what about the moonsault where he's holding Ray and he does the flip while like
bananas.
that was incredible. Like
Yeah.
this guy does this and it's different every match. He does a different thing, which I love. And you were saying how Seth's adding new stuff to his arsenal. Logan Paul is doing it. This kid gets it. Like he is it. I love it.
And I will say this, and I've never been in a locker room for wrestlers or anything like that. I would imagine that if Ray short jumped that, that situation where he was going to really take a nosedive onto the mat and Logan Paul catches him, if Ray was in trouble and Logan bails him out, I would imagine that goes a long way in the locker room.
Absolutely.
It goes a long way. And like Ray, as respected he is as a wrestler, I mean, we've heard the Hitman Hart, say that he's one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. I'm assuming that he is praising Logan Paul for what he did during that match. If that's the case, if that's what happened, and he bailed him out of some serious trouble there, that's impressive. So
we got to find the answer to that. I wonder if he'll be talking about that on his show. I'm really curious about that particular spot. Who's
yeah,
saving who?
yeah. And you know what? Like, as professionals, they probably won't give you that answer. They'll just probably say, they won't even probably address it. But like, I would assume that someone should probably ask that question if they're doing their job. In my opinion, okay, with this match, like, it was a great match. I thought it was above average, not great, but I felt like it was going to be better than it was. And I think again, it has a lot to do with the crowd. I just felt like the crowd was not into it, which was a shame because like these two guys are just incredible athletes. And some of the things that they were doing were just astounding. um, I hated the way I'm hating the way that Logan Paul is finishing these matches. Like it's very similar to what Roman Reigns has been doing, right? Like he's doing these brass knuckles. Like you really need brass knuckles to beat Rey Mysterio. Like you're the better athlete. You're the more imposing force here. Like yeah, he needed brass knuckles to beat who was it that he beat at SummerSlam? Ricochet,
Ricochet.
right? Like these are guys that you shouldn't like unless you this is going to be your thing, right? Like I remember Rick the Model Martel like used like his little
Perfume.
his perfume to like win different matches.
Arrogance.
Yeah. Like if that's going to be your thing, then yeah, okay. Let's go with that and we can run with that for a little while. I know Lex Luger had the plate in his forearm, right? Like that was a thing too. Um it's just I want to buy into him. He's the title holder now. He's going to have to defend the championship for like I mean, that's not a heavyweight title. So you can't just show up once every other month. Like that's a lesser title. You need to be present. So that tells me that he's committed to being on WWE programming for extended period of time, maybe a lot more shows than we expected. Um, and yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But like it's cool to see him with the title on. We talked about this before. I think we both predicted that Logan Paul was going to win it, and he did. And now he's the biggest social media star in the world, and he's going to be bragging about it, and he's gonna plug the WWE a ton. So they're going to get a lot of traffic on that.
Yep. And he is going to add a large spotlight whenever he has that match. Someone else now will be elevated because they will be in that spotlight. It's almost like when we watch Gunther, go against all these different guys and it's showcasing them. It's like a commercial for these wrestlers. Like when John Cena talked about his United States title run, he was putting a commercial for these guys that he would give a shot to. Now they have the Logan Paul rub, the plug, the spotlight of the world on them when they're going to go. And so guys like a Ricochet get a chance to be showcased. Rey Mysterio is big in the spotlight, and that's two. But like I'm excited to see who they bring up, and now who's a guy that's like kind of maybe lost for like I would love to see an AJ Styles match with him or somebody like what I mean. Like let's see some stuff go on where he can showcase these other stars that we have that necessarily haven't gotten this, and it will help elevate them and bring them back into relevancy too. And also another thing I would like to mention with Logan Paul is his behind the scenes camera stuff. I loved that when they're doing the little cuts to him in the back, talking shit and saying, that's right, I'm this and that. And then him and Triple H saying what's up. Like, and even the stuff when he said to Ray, like, you're great, I love you, man. And Ray's, I know you know what you did. It was fair and square. And he like, that's great heel work. That is like
That
as
is,
good
yeah,
as it gets.
solid, yeah.
All right. So
Uh,
oh, sorry, did you have something else to say on that?
no, 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 no. That's enough on Logan Paul.
I was gonna say, speaking of the young talent, a tweet went out this weekend during the PLE of one Mr. Will Ospreay, who I believe was ranked number one on 30 and under professional wrestling talent. If not one, he was two. And he kind of liked something from the WWE. There's been a lot of rumors out there. I just wanted to note that rumor of Will Ospreay and his potential of coming to WWE. Will we see him in the future at a Royal Rumble or something like that? Would you be what would you think about that signing? I know we've talked about the talent that's already in WWE. This guy's a superstar, and he is like someone I've never seen. Like he's so athletic. and like just in the ring, he does. I'm not so much, I don't know so much about his character work, but in the ring, he's something that fans are going to be like, whoa, like it's a new world with him. He's different.
Well, isn't that what they said about Shinsuke Nakamura?
It's different though. I mean, Shinsuke character wise, I think is unique. Something I've never seen. The way his gyrations and movements and stuff like that was all very cool. And Shinsuke's been around for 6+ years now in the WWE. So he had his run. And I think he kind of cooled off. And he doesn't have necessarily that physique that people can buy the look almost. I feel like that hurts Sami Zayn a little bit. Not as much as buying him, but like in who WWE will back. Will Ospreay has it all. He has the look. He has the like. He's jacked. He can do the high flying. He can lay it in ring. This guy is
Yeah,
is one of
I
the
don't,
best.
I don't know about this guy. I've never seen him before. I've never seen him wrestle. Um, I've heard of him, obviously, but if there's interactions right now, like if he's tweeting and he's clearly there's been some sort of communication going on. So, um, that bodes well for the WWE. Like it's the machine, dude. Like it's not going to stop. Like everyone keeps on trying to say that the AEW's like the AEW is rolling out fucking
Jake the
Jake the
Snake.
Snake Roberts and they just signed Ric Flair. It's like, okay, like what is this, 1985? Like, give me a break. And I mean, I hate to say it because you want competition and you want it to be healthy, and it's just sad that this is the route that they're going to go in terms of
Yeah.
AEW. But
They
like the
seem to
whole
be
world,
like not learning from WCW at all. And just
yeah,
like, yeah, let's try this, we'll bring Jake the Snake and Big Show out. It'll be great.
yeah. So I mean, the Will Ospreay thing is great. I mean, it's great news for the WWE. You add talent to the roster, like, and and here's the other thing. Like, it's not a cautionary tale right now because we've just seen the WWE add one of the biggest female talents to the roster, and they haven't done a thing with her yet. They haven't really just put her out there at all. Like they're not mortgaging in her like mortgaging mortgaging blah, 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 blah. What am I trying to say? Um
I don't know.
they're not profiting essentially just by rolling her out there, right? Like
Right.
they're not just like, hey, like they put her in a couple different spots, but they haven't like rolled her out there every 3 seconds. Like, they like
Yeah, right.
that's they're gonna pick their spots.
They're
They're
slow
gonna
rolling her kind of out
yeah,
into the thing. And she's physically, you look at her, it's like, wow. So I think they're just taking that appeal and trying to probably hone her craft at the performance center in Florida and get her
mhm.
in ring up to that par to match her physical appearance. And I think Will Ospreay is a guy that's obviously ready to go in ring and just something to keep an eye out for, I guess, is what we should say. Like we noted it. We want to let you know in case you didn't see it that he's now liking like there's some smoke here, right? And we just want to pay attention to that.
Yeah. There's also talk of Tatanka coming back.
Oh, oh
You
my
know,
God.
you know about me and Tatanka.
Just call me Tatamka. All right, well, so let's get to the greatest of all time, Mr. John Cena and his match with Solo Sikoa. Now, another thing where I'm gonna have to, I guess, eat a little bit of crow here is I have criticized John Cena before as maybe saying he is selfish and
Maybe.
of insinuating or saying that he's obsessed with the spotlight and needs to be the center of attention, inserting himself into these different situations that he doesn't necessarily need to be. And I've said this
Maybe.
before, and
Maybe.
have to, I've said it, and I have to say, and I will say this, that I do feel like sometimes he does do that. But in this situation, I have to give him kudos for not only putting Solo Sikoa over, but the way he did it. He let Solo Sikoa dominate him, hit him with that thumb of death, the Samoan spike, and several times over and over. So kudos to John Cena and what I thought he looked the best he's looked since he's come back. I feel like in this match he looked. I was like, wow, okay, that's the John Cena I remember, looking good. The crowd
Well,
was flat for this match as well. My only problem with this is why? No, I mean, and I hate to say this because I don't want to seem like I don't like if I saw Solo Sikoa, I'd be like, holy shit, man, you're awesome. Like this is great, blah blah blah. But like no one really wants Solo up there. And
well,
Cena's
someone
fucking
no,
promo was right
well,
on with you got the job because of him and nobody cares, you know?
someone obviously wants Solo to be over. So that's the play that they wanted to run. And I will comment on when you're watching this whole thing go down at the end of the match. You could tell that Cena is essentially directing the entire thing because like Solo is in the ring and it's almost like he's kind of like surprised like what's going on, right? Like he hits a spike, right? And then he hits it out of nowhere, right? I think that was the comment that Michael Cole says, "Oh, it's Solo spike out of nowhere," like it was the RKO, right?
Yeah.
And then he hits it again, and then Cena's kind of on the ground, and like there's parts where you can see him, like he's probably telling Solo not to cover and like do it again, like do it again, because Cena knows what's what. Like he's such a he's a smart guy. He's been in the business for a long period of time, and he's pushing Solo so over, right? Like he's giving him, I guess it's giving him heat, right? Like for anything, like you're going after an all-time great here. Like he's gonna let you do whatever he can to get you to the spot that you need to be, where the bosses feel like, hey, you're now in a good spot, right? So it was just cool to see Cena just take that dive and really, as a veteran, as a guy that is so important to the business and to the WWE over such a long period of time, to give back. I think that's really what people are looking at here is like Cena, for as much as people hated him and if they chant you suck, Cena sucks during his ring entrances and all that shit. Like the dude had a spot to give back and he did.
Right. And it helps give that enforcer character a little more validity. It helps with the Solo Roman storyline where Roman told him to take care of this and Solo did and took him out. And I think it helps with John Cena's storyline too of he's fallen short and he hasn't been able to win and it's like he's just struggling to win and he can't find a W and he loses at WrestleMania, he loses as at Crown Jewel and it's just when's this guy going to find a win? And so eventually I think it'll lead to that story of his kind of redemption and finding some sort of a big win eventually. I don't know when, maybe it'll be at this WrestleMania or another time. But like I said before, kudos to John Cena. Now, one question for you here too. Now, there was a match years ago with John Cena and Brock Lesnar, and they talk about it at length. And I think Cena was out to dinner with Stone Cold or something like that the night before. Maybe it was The Undertaker, and they were talking about this match at SummerSlam with Brock Lesnar and how he had just beaten the streak at WrestleMania a couple months prior to that and how he wanted to make him look strong. And they came up with this idea where he's going to take suplex after suplex. And it was basically a squash match. And I watched the match and I was like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? And like, kind of sucked. I was like, all right, I guess this is all in. It's memorable. And he's like, I just thought, how can I make Brock Lesnar look even more like he comes out and is unbeatable and this and that and that. And it was like, in my mind, I thought that was a miss because I thought that Brock Lesnar already had that aura about it. He didn't really need it. I wanted to see a good match. I want to see because Cena was a star too. And it wasn't like, oh, he did that to Cena. This guy's unbeatable. It's professional wrestling. You know, like eventually someone's going to beat him. So does he overthink himself? Is what I'm saying with this giving back. You know, like he wants to make him look like and maybe not just him. We saw Baron Corbin in interviews talking about, oh, my job is to make someone look like sometimes do they go overboard with this and like not necessarily give the match and it's like oh I'm giving back so much like this is what I'm doing and it's like just have a great match. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like I don't know, dude. I sometimes I get frustrated with you because like you're now again talking out both sides of your fucking mouth. Like as much as you criticize Cena, like now he's giving back, and now you're like, is he giving back too much? Like, what is he doing? Like
Well, I just am using
is he
this as an
conceited?
example.
Is he conceited? Like, does he? Is he too selfish? And now, like, you're making it like he is selfish again after the dude just sold
No, no,
for.
no. I'm not saying I think it was done in like the right motivation for it, but is it an overthinking sometimes when they do it? Like when you know, like the thing with Lesnar is like I think that was a miss. You know, this one I don't think was. I'm just
But
saying.
ultimately, like these guys aren't the ones that are deciding it. They orchestrate it, right? And then Vince has to sign off on it, or creative has to sign off on it. So, like, is it them overthinking it, or is it creative overthinking it? I think that's what you really have to look at. Um, yeah, dude, I don't know. Like they run, I think for the most part, they run the play that
Yeah.
creative has, unless you're Shawn Michaels and you like the Montreal screw job, and or you, yeah, there's you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Um, and there's just story after story about people like calling their own shots during the ring and doing their own thing, and like we hear those stories from time to time, and those are probably on what's that documentary called Beyond the
Beyond the
Mat
ring.
or
Yeah, yeah. Dark
Beyond the
side of the
Ring
ring
and
or
Dark Side of the Ring. Um, so yeah, I think that these guys run the play, and if they overthink it, I think it's more so. Yeah, they have freedom and flexibility within the match. So like they have the ultimate goal. Do they go a little crazy sometimes with like overselling? Probably. Um, but I think it's within context, and I think it's within the right mindset to do what creative has planned.
right. And
If
I will say this, not that anyone really cares, is like when I sometimes maybe I overthink things too, and that's part of what I do in here. Maybe not sometimes, all the times. And I will say I'm always talking about the characters and stuff like that. I love all these wrestlers, you know, and so it's not so much like a thing. Like I'm not
oh
trying
my
like John
God.
Cena's obviously a great wrestler, one of the greatest of all time, and has done so much for the business in and out of the ring. But I just, analyze, and think about it. So that's kind of where I get to these thoughts in my head, and I just throw them out there. All right, so let's go to the women's fatal five way. Another match where I think the crowd was affecting this match. I thought it was actually better than the crowd gave it credit for. And I don't know if that's something to do with their culture over there and how women are secondary citizens and treated differently and whatever. But Mommy comes out with the win. I thought the match was fun. I love when they put in, five wrestlers to showcase them in these women matches, and you get to see different things happening here and there. And Mommy looks strong. She comes out with the win, and I want to jump from that match saying is really good. If you have any comments on that, to the women's battle royal to find out the number one qualifier, I liked the battle royal. I thought they showcased in there too, and I'm really excited that Zoey Stark won the match, and Mommy and Zoey Stark are going to face each other at Survivor Series War Games. I think I'm circle like I want to see this women's match. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be really good.
Yeah, Zoe Stark has been really good. She's been an up and comer in the women's division. Obviously, she's got the Trish Stratus rub when she first came in, and kind of carried her torch from that point forward, and then had the mix up with Becky Lynch, and she's gotten a lot of experience with like those two, and she has really been a bright spot in the women's division. Since she's been up. Like it's been fun to watch her. She does like in that match at the PLE, she does a crazy jump out of the corner. And I don't know if they did this intentionally, but the camera caught it from a different angle. And she jumps from one rope to the other and then does a splash onto everybody, which was like really cool. And a cameraman like falls at the same time as Zoe falls. It was like really cool like camera work. Um, but she just has like that it factor. Like she's really athletic and great in the ring, and she doesn't miss too many spots. And um, to your point, it's ironic that Mommy hits her with the riptide on top of like in at the end of that match in at the PLA at Crown Jewel. She does the riptide off the top rope onto Shayna and a couple of the other girls and gets the pin. And here now Zoe Stark wins the battle royal, and now she's facing her for the title, which is cool. A cool 2 days in the women's division to set up that match, and I'll be looking forward to that. It's a Survivor Series too as well.
And I'm glad she's getting that opportunity because I think she can be a major player in the women's division and be right up there with the Bianca Belairs, Charlotte Flairs, Mommies, I guess Jade Cargill, Becky Lynch, and Liv Morgan's. I think
Mm-hmm.
she can be right up there with them. And I think this will be a chance for her to showcase. She's got a great style that I think she does better than I would say most women's wrestlers, maybe all like her style, she has that strength and um athleticism that these other wrestlers don't seem to have for being quote unquote a smaller female wrestler too. So really looking forward to that and thought that was really well done. All right, let's get to the fatal four-way for the number one contendership and the championship match against Gunther.
Dude, let me hop on this real quick because
Do
this
it.
thing, this match was really cool. Like I was again like this is I talked about it earlier, like where like you're on your edge of the seat and you don't know who's going to win this match. And I felt the same way about this. And it's strange because you have guys that like really haven't been in that like title picture for quite some time. You have Ivar, you have Big Bronson Reed, who's been getting a push here and there, right? And the Miz, and then you get Ricochet, who obviously every time he's in the ring just delivers with like his acrobatics and just impressive way he moves throughout the ring. But the whole match is just set up perfectly, and it's interesting because there's so many different styles that are within that ring. Like you have a bruiser like Bronson Reed, you have Ivar, who is also a bruiser but can move like really well. That does top rope shit, right? Like comes off the top rope, like does cartwheels and all sorts of crazy shit. And then you got Ricochet, who's just, total athlete. And then the Miz, who is more of a traditional wrestler, right? Like,
Right.
and it's just like a combination of different styles. And dude, they made it work really well, like all the way across the board. Um, and there's different spots in the match that just Yeah, there was one point where Ricochet actually missed a spot. I think you saw it too, where I thought like he broke his fucking neck,
Yeah,
and they checked on him, and it's look when you do these types of matches, right? Like Ricochet takes these high flying like risk maneuvers, and they're not going to be perfect all the time, right? But like if you can cover it up, and if you can make it like if you miss one and you can cover it up, you can get away with it. And like I think the WWE crowd gives him the benefit of the doubt, like when that does happen, because like the match went on without. Sometimes when that does happen, you lose a match, right? Like that
right.
match just falls flat, and that
People
like
will
after
chant
that,
you fucked up, and it's like,
yeah, and you didn't hear any of that because I think it was like the people realize how much of a fucking risk that shit is.
and the
And
degree of difficulty that he
yeah,
takes and makes look easy most of the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah. It looked like he was trying to do a hurricanrana off the rope, and Ivar carried it out, but he obviously missed it by a little bit. But just in general, that match was like really cool, and I was on the edge of my seat, like, dude. Usually we can predict like who's going to win these matches, like who's going to be the number one contender. And the way they finished that match had like a lot of
What's going
Royal
on?
Rumble,
Like, yeah,
like
yeah,
Royal Rumble, Bret Hart, Lex Luger,
yeah,
like whose foot hit, who didn't, like Shawn Michaels type shit. Remember?
yeah. And you're like
Um,
thinking, like, what did, like, wait, what just happened? And you're like, so wait, did who, was that a mistake or did that, you're watching it. Another thing I think we mentioned when we were texting too, I thought the fucking ring was gonna fall apart. Like the way they were taking these big fucking coming off the top and slam, it was like, whoa, like what is going on here? And the way it
yeah,
ended, I loved it because it gave you that like you had to be like what like you had to like really like wait what happened there? Let's get to the replay and just a cool thing to do. We'd obviously seen the promo with the Miz the week before and Gunther, and I think this sets up a great story for him and Gunther to go at it. And I thought the Miz too, and I don't know if it's just becoming the trend. Maybe they're listening to us, but he was getting it laid in on him a little bit too in that match, and you don't see that all the time either. And it's like maybe it's becoming the time to lay it in, and I'm
dude,
excited for Ms. Gunther.
I said this earlier in the show that the Miz got some like he went on a run in that match where he went through all three guys,
Oh yeah,
and the crowd was like into him, and like I think even Wade Barrett was like, "Oh, the Miz isn't used to this," like because like the
I
people
think they
got
were saying
behind them.
"Let's go Miz." I think they were
Yeah,
chanting like "Let's
yeah,
go Miz."
and and he might you might see a resurgence from the Miz, and I think the WWE universe and also creative has recognized what the Miz has been doing in terms of Miz TV and putting guys over like he did with LA Knight. And I think like even with Waller, like him and Waller, like the stuff there too as well has been pretty decent. And I think you're gonna see the Miz possibly resurrect his career here and get involved in some title reigns here. So we'll see how it works out, but it'll be cool to see that dude get strapped again if that's the case.
Yeah, the Miz has always got to insert himself into that spotlight and take it away from people. And so you just mentioned the Miz putting over LA Knight, and let's get into it. Our final match of the night that we're going to talk to. Well, real quick before we get into this, the show Raw ended with the match between Seth and Sami Zayn. Out came the Judgment Day. Out comes Jey Uso, Cody
Cody.
Rhodes.
Yeah.
A melee ensues. Our boy Pierce comes out. You want to play games? You want to play games? Fine. Stares at the hard cam. It's war game. It was nuts. It kind of just like oh, like that's like the stuff that it's kind of like but it's just that's professional wrestling, man. And you love to see it. And the way it was done, it was a fun finish. Like in melee, like everything's going nuts. What's going on? I thought it was really well done. And I think they've done these things fairly well in the last month or so where it comes out and there's just chaos. And I love the chaos sometimes. And I thought it was well done. And the announcement of War Games, I think, is cool. It's going to be a good match and a blow off, and hopefully we'll be done with these four guys going it because it's time to end it. And War Games is the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, it's a callback, like you said. Like the end of that Raw yesterday was great. It's a callback to what we grew up with at the end of Raw. Every night or every Monday night we saw just absolute melees, like guys down the ring. It was just Raw would go off the air at like 11:05 or 11:07 or whatever, 7 minutes after it was supposed to, and there'd be dudes still getting beat up, and like that's what we saw last night. It was Jey Uso was I think he just did a splash on like security guards at the end of the show last night, and like it just went off air. It was like cool. It was just a harken back to our childhood, and I that obviously is Triple H right there. That's him.
He's a man.
Probably, yeah, he's probably going like, dude, this is what it used to be. This is what it still needs to be. People, thirst for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Pierce is great too. He goes crazy, does that whole thing. We love Pierce. He's one of our favorites. And we'll see how that whole Aldis and Pierce thing plays out, but it'll be interesting. War Games will obviously have something to do with it. I'm sure that they'll both get involved somehow.
Yep. And so we're looking forward to that match. You got some great talent in the match, and it's going to be a heck of a show. All right. So now let's get to the final match that we're going to talk about, and that's going to be your tribal chief, the undisputed champion, Mr. Roman Reigns. Acknowledge him versus the megastar, with everybody saying L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Timmy, the one thing I want to like really take, and I want to say there's two things that I want to take away, but the first thing is L.A. Knight delivered in this match. I didn't see a hiccup. I saw a great match. I thought he was flying around. I liked the pace. I liked his strength. I liked his moves. I liked everything that he did in this match. And kudos to LA Knight and Roman Reigns. We had to have it takes two to tango. And I thought they did a great job of showcasing LA. He looked strong. He had a chance to win. There was foul play. Roman has to spear him twice, gets the victory, remains the undisputed champion. And I mentioned there's foul play, and something I think that was brought up on Busted Open, a show that we both like, and Bully Ray mentioned. Is this interfering now? Is this helping fans want to see Roman lose the title more? Every match he's in, there's some sort of interference to help him hold on. Interference, interference, interference every time. Is this helping so that it's leading to this crescendo that at WrestleMania, when whoever goes against him at WrestleMania is facing him, the crowd is going to be so hot they want to see Roman lose because of all of this interference at times? Is the interference helping? One, talk about LA Knight and how you thought he performed in the match overall. Two, touch on that interference, and is it helping the character and the heel of the tribal chief?
My favorite thing about this match was how LA Knight controlled the crowd and how the crowd fed off of him. So for the entire night, the crowd was mixed. Yeah, as we talked about, we documented throughout this entire episode. And it started out with Seth and Drew, and it was hot then, and then it was like just like peaks and valleys, and then you get to the LA Knight Roman Reigns match, and it was hot again,
Right.
and it's like so I think the HJB said, is it the venue or is it the the wrestling? What is it? And I said that it was both. Like I thought the wrestling was good all the way throughout, but I just thought the crowd just sucked. And LA Knight, when he comes out and he gets the crowd going, like there's only a few people in wrestling, right? Over the course of pro wrestling that can get a crowd going, right? Like just at the like if a crowd's dead, you hear the glass, right? It's hot already, right? You hear if you smell what the rock is cooking, like boom, it's done, right? Like it's hot. You hear Hulk's music, it's loud, right? And I'm not putting LA Knight in that category yet, but like the last 8 months, he's been there, man. Like every time that music hits, the crowd gets into it, dude. It doesn't matter what part of the show it is, if it was the
Or what
beginning.
part of the world it is. I mean,
Yeah,
think about it. They're in Saudi Arabia and it still happens. I'm sorry to cut you up, but also in Saudi Arabia, this guy's getting it. It's not just the US thing, it's
yeah,
global.
yeah, yeah, and it's spot on. And that's really telling to see. Um the match in itself was in listening to the Busted Open podcast, that was I think yesterday. They had very good points. Like the match that LA Knight and Roman Reigns did was very similar to what Roman Reigns does every single time that he gets out there. And that's what fans have been complaining about is like every time we see Roman Reigns, it's the same. And you were even saying this, dude, before I even listened to that podcast, it's like you wanted to see Roman win clean. Like that was your big thing. You're like, I need to see Roman win clean. And he just does not win clean anymore. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But the big thing I think for me was credence to what LA Knight is as a character and what he's going to be moving forward. And they did it perfect enough for LA Knight to continue on his crescendo, right? And Roman to still be the champion that he is. So I was happy with the result. I was happy with the way LA performed. Um, he did not look overmatched. Like he looked comfortable in the moment. He looked fine in the ring in the biggest match of his career. And I think it's only up from here.
Yeah, he looked like he belonged. And it was awesome because, we've talked about it in the past where it's like, man, it's like you're watching someone that you have this time invested into, and you're like, please don't mess up. Don't you want him to do well, and I think he hit it out of the park. He looked like he belonged.
Yeah. I'm no longer getting nervous about like Roman or not Roman, LA Knight like delivering a suplex.
Yeah, right, right. Or
You're
that
like,
jump
oh,
off the top rope or whatever it is
please
that he
go
does.
over well, please.
Yeah.
So,
So another step in making us comfortable, and he showed that he belonged, and we think that you belong here with us. We appreciate you being here and listening and hopefully enjoying what we have to say, even when Timmy flip flops left and right about his opinions on John Cena and other
Seth
things,
Rollins.
Seth Rollins and all that other stuff. So, for all of you out there listening, we appreciate you. Thank you. Do us a favor, give us a share, tell your friends, tell somebody. Come on, tell somebody. Say, yo, Jimmy, did you check out Jabroni? You got to check out this show. We love it. You're gonna love it. Tim and Tom, they're really breaking it down and analyzing everything from the WWE, and it's a great product. Timmy, you got anything you want to say to all the Schmidt and Lavellites out there before we sign off?
Tom, it's hard being perfect, you know?
Yeah, I
Is
do,
that is that his tagline?
Mr. Perfect. Um, I don't. I hate to say I told you so, but he told you so. Something like that. That's what I always remember with Mr. Perfect and Bobby the Brain and whoever.
Let's edit. Retry.
Edit, retry. Uh-oh. Well, we hope you've liked this episode of Jabroni Drive. New episodes every week covering all things WWE and professional wrestling. If there's anything out there you'd want us to touch on, give us a comment, shoot us a text, a DM, whatever it is, and we will talk about it on the show. Big episodes coming up leading to Survivor Series, War Games. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Jabroni Drive. Until next week, for Timothy Schmidt, I'm Tom Lavelle. Have a great weekend. Enjoy SmackDown.
You want to fight? You want to fight? You can fight at War Games.
You want to play games? You're playing games? They're playing games? Yeah, that's fine. We can all play games. At War Games.